What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and I'm coming at you with, once again, another first place deck profile for Dragonmaids. And I don't know what to say at this point except that the deck just can't keep getting away with it. We just keep taking first place with the list, and the list keeps changing every time. So I don't think I've still found the perfect build yet, but the build is always evolving, and each list I think it gets better and better, and I think this is my best list to date. So yeah, we are going to get into this list, but a few things first. If you are a fan of Dragonmaids and you enjoy Dragonmaid content and you want to see more Dragonmaid content, make sure you like this video and subscribe, because I do play this deck a lot and I've had some pretty good success with it, and it's a deck I just really enjoy playing. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe for Dragonmaids. Let me know down in the comments below which Dragonmaid is your favorite. It's not a question I've asked in other deck profiles, but I just like to read and see which Dragonmaid is, you know, sort of the favorite amongst the comments. And yeah, that'd be really interesting to me, so leave comments down below. Also, if you are looking for a Yu-Gi-Oh community and a place where you can hang out, maybe play Master Duel and just talk about Yu-Gi-Oh with other people who are interested in the game, Discord down below along with all of our other social media links. Guys can check that out with the link down below, and yeah, just join a Yu-Gi-Oh community where you can talk with others and have a good time. And yeah, but without further ado, let's get into this Dragonmaid deck profile. Alright, before we hop into this profile, I do want to show off this Evil Twin mat we won for taking first place. I think the mat is absolutely gorgeous. It's, you know, the second in line of the Evil Twin mats we've gotten for the OTS Back to Duel sort of promotion Konami does. And yeah, this one is Evil Twin present, and I think it looks absolutely gorgeous on a mat. So super happy to have won this. But yeah, getting into the Dragonmaid lineup here, we of course have our 3-chamber Dragonmaid, the best starter essentially, along with the 3 parlor. These are just absolutely obligatory to maximize at 3 each. You know, I say every deck profile, and these are very standard at 3, not much to explain here. They're just your main starters that get you into the very least spheres as a 1-card combo, but they can get you so much more as well. And you really want to make sure you get both of these in rotation as quickly as possible. Next, we have 1 kitchen and 1 nurse. So the 1 kitchen, I think, is the only thing in the main deck ratio that gets sort of altered. I think everything else is pretty standard. Some people will play 2 nurse, but I've been on 1 for just a while. The kitchen is a slot you can interchange. I'm on 1 because I'm not playing a lot of big dragons, so her use for getting the dragons in graveyard is sort of limited in this build. So 1 kitchen is sort of the reason for that, but also she's not a 1-card starter, and that's what really is tough about kitchen. I absolutely love kitchen as a Dragonmaid, but she just isn't a 1-card starter. She needs to be seen with some sort of extender to make spheres turn 1, so if you draw her with nothing else, she really isn't going to get you very far, and that's why we are on 1. You just want to see her the least, but you do want her in your deck sort of for the grind game. You can special her off spheres, or, you know, once you're in the middle of it, you'll end up searching her off of something. But yeah, that is why I'm on 1 kitchen, but it is a ratio I have played at 2 and can sort of do what you want there. Alright, for big Dragonmaids, we are on the 1 Ernest and the 1 Lorpar. So there is no Tinkek in this lineup. It's something I have run a lot in the past, but this list and my top 4 list at the Alexandria tournament we went to, I have cut Tinkek, and I haven't really missed it yet. These dragons are just absolute bricks if you open them with nothing else, and that is one of the problems with the big dragons in Dragonmaid. So we are on 2, and I've been enjoying it. They still do exactly what you need them to do, and the fact that they increase the, you know, how fast your snowball rolls into itself, and you can get ahead in the game, and they give you huge bodies and help make your Sheo. This list is focusing on cutting bricks, because one of the issues with Dragonmaid is that a lot of its extenders by themselves don't do anything, and that'll become more apparent the further we go into the profile, but I am only on 2 big dragons in this list currently. 2 black metal and 1 red MD, so this package has sort of been increased. I wasn't playing this in a lot of my older builds, and I was playing it at 1 and 1 in my top 4 list. However, in this list, I took out the small worlds, which will come in later. And so I wanted to add more starters. So essentially with the 2 black metals, the 3 parlors, and the 3 chambers, we have 8 1-card starters into sphere mode. Or not sphere mode, excuse me, heavenly spheres. Red MD essentially took the place of Tinkek as far as like big dragons in the main deck. Because if you don't draw a starter, of course Red MD is another brick. Again, one of the things about dragon extenders in this deck is they can just be bricks with nothing else, which is why we are trying to limit them as much as possible. However, they're just very important for playing past hand traps and making sure you can always see your plays. So this is a ratio I'm liking. I'm tempted to move to 3 of this because, again, it's just more starters. But seeing multiples of black metal is just very, very bad. So it's not something I'm too keen on. I will definitely test it out more. But for this list, I was on 2 black metal and 1 red MD. 2 Noctovision. This is like either the best or the worst card in the deck. It's my favorite extender personally because it just does so much. When he's used as a link to make your spheres, which is of course like the deck's main play, you get a free draw out of it. And then honestly, my favorite effect is his effect Engrave that can protect your face down tidying, or you can also protect one of your super special back row we are playing in this deck that is very, very powerful, and you want to make sure it can't be targeted by like your opponent's Draco back or like a Cosmic Cyclone. So Noctovision provides like just extending and protection for your back row. It is also a level 5 or higher dragon, so you can use it to fusion summon into Sheo. This card has some really weird interactions with a couple of cards I wouldn't say are starters, but can actually get you to full combo, and I'll sort of explain that once we get to the next card and one card in the spell lineup, because it comes up every now and then. It's pretty cool. For the next card, it's a card that has a lot of roles in the deck and is one of the reasons I actually got back onto Dragonmaids. After I got the top 4, I actually was like messing around with different decks, and I didn't want to play Dragonmaid because I just played it so much recently. But this deck has some engine cards that are also just very good this format, and this is one I think is just super, super powerful. We are on 3 Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. This was not in my last list, at least not at 3, and the list before that it was at 0, and this card is just absolutely phenomenal. This format, almost every single deck is linking. Even Eldritch, the most popular version now, is the Cyburst variant, which links a lot. So you have Phantom Knight, you have Based, you have like Tenyi Synchro, Sword Soul links, literally everything links except like Fluandereeze, where this card gets sided out. But yeah, this card is so, so good, and this is one of those cards where I've been able to like special Phantasme and then special Noctovision, and then on the next turn make spheres, which is hilarious. But yeah, this card is like super, super good at fixing your hands, making sure you see plays. It's also a level 5 or higher dragon, which is very good for your fusion spell. So this card just comes up a lot for a bunch of different reasons. Even if your opponent isn't linking, this card isn't dead because you can use it to fusion summon for Sheo. So Phantasme is something I've brought to 3, and it's something I really like because it acts as like a starter in some hands because you can just open this and normal summon any dragon and make spheres. But also as a way to get you into your really good cards and draw even more go second cards. So I think Phantasme is phenomenal because it's not only great this format, but it's an engine card in this deck, and I think that is super, super powerful. For the rest of the hand traps, we are on 3 Nibiru, which is just like the most impactful hand trap of the format. As long as you're seeing it with other hand traps, by itself, Brave stops it, but with other hand traps, it's just so blowout. And then we are running 2 Ash Blossom, 2 Ghost Ogre, and 2 Effect Veiler. The reason we're on Effect Veiler over Impermanence is, of course, we were on Phantasme, so we want to be able to draw Veiler off Phantasme, not Imperm. And then Ogre's like one of the best cards this format. Ash is like okay, but in some matchups like Eldritch or slower matchups is very, very good. And it's nice to pair with other hand traps as well. It can stop things like Fusion Destiny. Yeah, these are the hand traps. So with Phantasme, we are running, I believe, 12 hand traps, which is pretty good. And then we're running even more go second cards in the list that you will see later on. All right, on to the spells. We, of course, have the 3 Prosperity. Yeah, Dragonmaids sort of like need a good consistency card in their list. It's not like Dragon Link where they run just a huge amount of starters and extenders. Dragon Link has the same problem Dragonmaid does because I feel like Dragon extenders in general have the problem of just being bricks unless you open playable. As opposed to a deck like Live Twin, right, where their starters are extenders and vice versa. So yeah, Prosperity is really good at finding either the starter you need or the extender you need to play past hand traps. It of course can just find like the best cards in your deck. And yeah, Prosperity is just a huge, huge boost to consistency, finding one of your 8 1-card starters. Prosperity is very, very good. If you don't have access to Prosperity, because I know this card is, you know, a lot of money, and not everyone has access to it, I've seen people run Extravagance with like different extra decks than the one I'm playing. I wouldn't recommend Extravagance in this list because of the way my extra deck is set up. But you can run things like more Dragonmaid spells. I actually cut one for this list. You can run another black metal, and you can run like another Dragonmaid trap. You can run Dragonmaid welcome. There's actually a few cards you can play in this spot, but as far as consistency is concerned, this is, as good as it gets. For Dragonmaid spells, a little interesting compared to my last couple of lists, we are on 2 hospitality and a changeover. Again, this list was sort of trying to cut down on bricks as much as it could. And the thing about hospitality, while it's like one of the best cards Dragonmaid has, period, it is another card where if you don't see a starter, it is just a huge brick. It never came up where I needed the third in the grind game, because usually you're able to just sort of, after your first 2 spheres and your first 2 hospitalities, you're more in like the changeover game, in my opinion, where you just fusion summon a lot and you usually have game very, very easy past that. But I've needed 3 hospitality in the past. There's been a couple games where it does come up. So I don't know how I'm going to fit the 3rd hospitality back in if I decide to go that route. I was definitely bricking on it less at 2. It's just a weird thing that Dragonmaid have, where their extenders aren't always extenders if you don't open playable. So we were trying to cut bricks, but yeah, you can definitely add the 3rd back. It's tough to decide what I want to do with it. Of course, we are on the 1 changeover, and yeah, changeover at 1's pretty standard, and if it gets DD crowed, the next card will sort of show what we do in that situation, because the next card is just another reason I wanted to be on Dragonmaid again. So yeah, let's get into that next card. 3, Super Polymerization. So this is sort of the same reasoning as Phantasme, where I was like, wow, this card's super good this format, and it's sort of like an engine card for Dragonmaids. And Super Poly sort of fits the same role. This card is absolutely phenomenal. It's another blowout go second card. You can draw a Phantasme or see off Prosperity. It works in your engine. There were so many times where I just like had 2 Dragonmaids on the field and my opponent had an empty board. I was able to bounce them for 2 dragons, swing for 53, and then Super Poly for Sheo in battle phase, and just, it helps you push for damage really, really heavily in the battle phase. It can also help you dodge like removal effects in the same sort of way. And yeah, this card just absolutely overperforms in every matchup except like Fluandereeze. Of course, the decks right now, like big ones, are decks that make DPE and try to go for the Scythe Lock, and we're running a bunch of different targets in our extra deck, but things like Savage Dragon or any dragons or darks in general, we have Chamber in the main deck that can be an additional dark. And of course, if your opponent has Savage or some huge dragon monster like Hot Red, you can actually make your own Sheo with their monsters if you summon a Dragonmaid, and that is super, super powerful. So you can use your own monsters to fusion into your big fusions, but also it is great at breaking boards. So this card, absolutely phenomenal, and yeah, I just really wanted to play 3 of this, and my extra deck did change accordingly, and I'll show you guys that when we get to the extra deck. But yeah, Super Poly, absolutely phenomenal. Lastly, for spells, we are on the Called by the Grave, which, standard enough. This card is just absolutely broken. And for the traps, we have the 3 Dragonmaid Tidying, which are just an engine requirement. It stinks to have like another card like this, where this is sort of similar to Hospitality, where it's like one of the best cards in your deck, but of course if you don't see playable, it's not doing anything. I do like, however, that you can see like this card and Phantasme in your really bad hands. Summon Phantasme, get your draws, and then you can actually bounce your Phantasme back. That's really cool, but of course you're always playing this at 3, it's just an engine requirement. That is it for the main deck. It is 40 cards. Moving on to the extra deck, some things have really changed in the extra deck here. So we are on 2 Sheo and 3 House Dragonmaid. I've normally played these at 2 and 2, but I've been wanting to move to 3 House for a while. How good Sheo is sort of dependent on how many houses you have in your extra deck. So there's been times where I've run out of House, but I've never run out of Sheos, and that's sort of how it just sort of works. And once Sheo actually dies and like goes to graveyard, Chamber can bring it back, but that's not the case with House, because she's rarely actually like properly summoned. She's usually summoned off Sheo's effect, which means Chamber can't bring her back from graveyard. So having more House is just always really good. So for now, I'm going to be on the 2 and 3 ratio for House and Sheo. And then one of the bigger changes is definitely this lineup, which is the Striker Dragon and only 2 Hieratic Seal. So the 3rd seal hasn't come up since I cut it down to 2, and Pisty hasn't come up since I, took it out as well. But this package is super, super limited in the sense that I get really worried that I'm going to end up needing the 3rd spheres. Again, it hasn't come up, and usually after 2 spheres, you can sort of rely on Sheo. Like, your snowball should be to the point where you don't even need seals anymore. But yeah, it's just one of the best cards in Dragonmaid, and putting it at 2 is really, sketch, but Oftentimes I was banishing the third one off prosperity anyways, so to fit like super poly targets and the third house, I ended up taking out the Pisty and the third seal. Alright, then we are playing the 1 Dark, the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Access Code Talker. This package is either super good in the extra deck or it just doesn't come up at all. Dark is amazing because it can obviously steal Destroy Phoenix Enforcer and Chambers Dark. But yeah, this is Access Code when we're not running Tinkek is just like the best out to like Towers cards. Like if they make a 5,000 attack, you know, add Ignister monster, we can just like summon Access Code at 53 and run it over. So yeah, that is sort of the reason for this package, and it's just a really good go second option for going for game, because if you're able to like summon Lorepar and make Access Code at 5300, that's just exact 8,000, so that's pretty cool that the attacks line up. And then we are running the 1 Mud Dragon and the 1 Starving Venom. These are of course the best, most generic super poly targets. And the thing about Starving Venom, where I mentioned where Noctovision actually combos with stuff even when you don't draw starters, there were times where I like super polyed into Starving Venom and then I could special Noctovision and actually make seals from there. So yeah, that's another thing you can actually do with Nocto. There's just weird hands that look like absolute bricks, but if you're able to make Starving Venom, sometimes they're not. So yeah, these are just absolutely great, and of course, the most popular super poly targets. Then we are on 1 Rocket Ride, which is just like, you know, really good in the Prank Kid matchup. And then we are on Guilty Gear Freed, and this is for the decks that are sort of ending Baron and Destroy Phoenix Enforcer to do their Scythe combo. You can actually just take Destroy Phoenix Enforcer and Baron with this card. And so yeah, he's actually could come up in a lot of situations. This last weekend he didn't come up, but he's sort of the 4th super poly target I'm sort of thinking about running for now. Depending on how the format goes, it could be Trifio Verdum if DDD get like even more popular, or it could be like the Eldritch Fusion, but for now we are on Guilty Gear Freed. Running through the side deck we used this weekend relatively quickly, we did the 1 Pankratops, of course, because Pankratops is just a phenomenal card, and 3 Lancia. Lancia didn't really do anything, but it was like a really good card in like theory, and it came up in Alexandria a couple of times, but I think Lancia might actually be Droll after this weekend. But yeah, I did play 3 Lancia at this tournament. And then we were on 3 Twin Twister. Yeah, this is for Prank Kids, you know, any back row decks and Fluanderies, like you just really want to hit Fluanderies and Standby Phase. This deck would actually side like 12 cards against Flunder because you actually just can't beat that deck half the time. It's such a hard matchup. So I was siding like 12 cards against Flunder almost every game. And yeah, Twin Twister is really good against that matchup as well. The 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, again, just for back row decks, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory. 2 Raigeki and a Dark Hole. If I had a 3rd Raigeki, I'd play it, but I actually just don't own a 3rd Raigeki, interestingly enough. But yeah, we are on these 3. Again, these are really good at breaking boards, but also Flunder is just such a hard matchup, and I don't own Lightning Storm either, so yeah, if you own Lightning Storm, you can play those, and it's sort of a catch-all, but we were on 2 Raigeki and a Dark Hole. 1 Downtime. This is good for like slower matchups or matchups where I know I'm going first. Another really cool thing about it, besides the fact that it's just a really good card in like slower matchups, and it just wins you the game half the time, honestly. It gives you an option to like have this and seals. So if they were like to do something to your seals, like Eldritch Effect, bounce it, or send it, or like Dark Hole, Raigeki, you can like flip this up and then seals can bounce this. So that's like a really good way for seals to like run away and get his effect. And then we were on 3 Summon Limit for Go First. This, I don't know how I feel about this card. It came up and it was good, but there were some times where I didn't really know how to play around this card. In theory, the idea is you can like summon once or twice on your opponent's turn to get your searches and what you need, and then do your really important summons on your turn, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. But this card did come up against Fluanderies and got us a win, so I'm not sold on this card yet. I don't know, more testing with it maybe, but we were on 3 Summon Limit for the last weekend. And yeah, that's going to do it for the Dragonmaid deck profile. Again, we just got first place with it again, so that's really nice, and we won this mat. Now, I am going to go into a test hand and show you guys what this deck can do, because, you know, a lot of people, if you haven't seen my Dragonmaid combo video, might want to know what the standard turn 1 looks like. So without further ado, let's get into this hand test. Alright, so we are going to shuffle up our deck here. It was, of course, in order previously because of the deck profile, so we're going to give it a good shuffle. We have already power shuffled the deck. And yeah, Dragonmaid, essentially what it wants to end on is Seals Tidying. That's like full combo. The 1 card starter gets you into just Seals, which is, good enough. I mean, Seals is such a good card for this deck. So if we can see it's like Seals, Tidying, maybe a couple hand traps, that'd be pretty good. If we can end with like Seals, Tidying, Sheo, that's like the absolute ceiling for the deck. So let's see what we're going to open up here. We're going to give it a quick cut and draw our 5 cards. So we're going to go ahead, C5, and we are going to get Pot of Prosperity, Noctovision, Super Poly, Parlor Dragonmaid, and Super Poly. So we did open double Super Poly, which is a little strange, but again, this card is so powerful that, I'm sort of fine with that. The only thing weird about this hand is we have Prosperity and Noctovision, right? And this is the only confliction it sort of has in the deck, is you can't get Nocto draw and use Prosperity in the same turn. So it sort of depends what's going to happen here, what we do. Of course, if we go second, Super Poly is going to be amazing. But to start our turn off, we are going to normal summon the Parlor and use her effect. And of course, this is why Parlor is going to be a 1-card starter. We are going to send the Dragonmaid Tidying, and then we are going to link her off. And we can actually do a couple things here. You don't have to send the Tidying, but there's going to be a good reason we do send the Tidying. So we're going to link off into the Striker Dragon. I get asked all the time why this is actually in the deck, because we're not running Boot Sector Launch, so people get really confused why it's in here. We have a couple of options here. Because we're running Striker Dragon as the bridge link, now Noctovision can be activated, so we can special summon him and make Seals and get a draw. Or we can use our Tidying to special summon the Parlor, which, sorry for the glare there. And then we can make spheres with that. However, it's really conflicting what you want to do. So you can go for the Tidying, and then we can use Prosperity later, maybe to find Tidying, and then we get Seals Tidying. Or we can Noctovision, get the draw, save the Tidying as follow-up for next turn, and protect our Super Poly that is in the graveyard. So I think what we want to do is I'm going to actually choose to special summon the Noctovision, and then I'm going to link both of these off into Hieratic Seal, which is of course our turn 1 play. And then we are going to draw a card for Noctovision, and it's going to be a Nibiru, which is absolutely fantastic. And then we're going to set 1 Super Poly, and that'd be where you pass your turn. I'm going to set my hand over here so it's not taking so much space. So you're going to end your turn. You're going to have Seals, Super Poly, and Nibiru as interrupts. They can't Cosmic or Draco back your Super Poly because of Noctovision. And what's really good here is, say they end up getting something that can like out your Seal randomly, you can also like Tidying to bring back Parlor, use her effect, and then Seals could bounce the Parlor. But we've essentially given us just like a lot more follow-up by saving the Tidying here. So we can end up like using Hieratic Seals to bounce one of their cards. Hopefully we can do the thing where we, activate Seals Chainlink 1, Nibiru Chainlink 2. That's always really fun. But let's say we're not using Nibiru. We could actually like special summon Nurse off of our Seals, wherever Nurse may be in the deck. Nurse can bring back the Parlor, and then you can like dump a lot of different things with the Parlor, which is really cool. If they went into battle phase to make Seals bounce, you could send Lorepar and then bounce back Parlor for Lorepar, and then you could actually use Super Poly to make your own Sheo. Of course, Super Poly is dependent on whatever deck they were running, but you can use it for your own cards as well. Parlor could also dump Chamber, which gets both Chamber and Parlor in rotation, and then end phase you could like Tidying out the Chamber. So yeah, Nibiru Super Poly Spheres was like a really good board that leads to a lot of follow-up as well, which is the main thing that you want to be doing with Dragonmaid, is making sure that you have, or really what Dragonmaid does is every form of interruption ends up being some form of follow-up, which is just so powerful, and it's what the deck really shines at, is just having more follow-up than almost any other deck in the game. There's very few decks that can keep up with this deck snowball. I'm an avid Earth Machine player, and I still don't know which deck has better follow-up, Earth Machine or Dragonmaid. That's how good Dragonmaid's follow-up is. So yeah, that's gonna do it for the combo section of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, leave down in the comments below again what your favorite Dragonmaid is. I'd love to know. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy. This has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.